Hello again. I'm in another reading mood. As you can see, I'm in the same shirt, a Haikyuu shirt. If nobody knows about it, that show's amazing, and you can find it on Crunchyroll. Without further ado, I'm gonna pick up where we left off, because these chapters are getting crazy. I am number 4 by Pittacus Lore, chapter 32. After all this time, only now do I understand. The morning runs when I would run too fast for him to keep pace. He would disappear into the woods, reappear seconds later in front of me. Six tried to tell me. Six took one look at him, and she knew immediately. On those runs, Bernie Kosar went into the woods to change himself, to turn himself into a bird. The way he would rush outside each morning, nose to the ground, patrolling the yard, protecting me and Henry, looking for signs of the Mogadorians. The gecko in Florida. The gecko that used to watch from the wall while I ate breakfast. How long has he been with us? The chimera. The ones I watched being loaded into the rocket. Did they make it to Earth after all? Bernie Kosar continues to grow. He tells me to run. I can communicate with him. No, that's not all. I can communicate with all animals. Another legacy. It started with the deer in Florida on the day that we left. The shudder that ran up my spine as it passed something along to me, some feeling. I attributed it to the sadness of our leaving, but I was wrong. Mark James's dogs, the cows I passed on my morning runs, the same thing. I feel like such a fool to discover it only now. So blatantly obvious, right in front of my face. Another of Henry's adages. Those things that are most obvious are the very things we're most likely to overlook. But Henry knew. That's why he said no to Six when she tried to tell me. Bernie Kosar's done growing. His hair has fallen away, replaced by oblong scales. He looks like a dragon, but without the wings. His body is thick with muscle, jagged teeth and claws, horns that curl like a ram's, thicker than the beast, but far shorter, looking every bit as menacing. Menacing. Two giants on opposite sides of the clearing, roaring at one another. Run, he tells me. I try to tell him that I can't. I don't know if he can understand me. You can, he says. You must. The beast swings, a hammer swing that starts in the clouds and pours down with brutality. Bernie Kosar blocks it with his horns and then charges before the beast can swing again. A colossal collision in the very center of the clearing. Bernie Kosar thrusts up, sinks his teeth into the beast's side. The beast knocks him back. Both of them so quick that it defies all logic, bleeding gashes already down the sides of each. I watch with my back against the tree. I try to help, but my telekinesis is still failing me. Blood still pours down my back. My limbs feel heavy, as though my blood has turned to lead. I can feel myself fading. The beast is still upright on 2 legs, while Bernie Kosar must fight on 4. The beast makes a charge. Bernie Kosar lowers his head and they smash into one another, crashing through the trees off to my right side. Somehow the beast ends up on top. It sinks its teeth deep in Bernie Kosar's throat. It thrashes, trying to tear his throat out. Bernie Kosar twists under the beast's bite, but he can't shake free. He tears at the beast's hide with his paws, but the beast doesn't let go. Then a hand reaches out behind me, grabs my arm. I try to push it away, but I'm incapable of doing even that. Bernie Kosar's eyes are closed tightly. He's straining under the beast's jaws, his throat constricted, unable to breathe. No! I yell. Come on! The voice yells behind me. We need to get out of here. The dog! I say, not comprehending whose voice it is. The dog! Bernie Kosar is being bitten and choked, about to die, and there isn't a damn thing I can do about it. I won't be far behind. I would sacrifice my own life for his. I scream out. Bernie Kosar twists his head around and looks at me, his face scrunched tightly in pain and agony and the oncoming death he must feel. We have to go! The voice behind me yells, the hand pulling me up from off the forest floor. Bernie Kosar's eyes stay fixed on mine. Go, he says to me. Get out of here, now. While you can. There isn't much time. I somehow reach my feet, dizzy, the world casts in a haze around me. Only Bernie Kosar's eyes remain clear, eyes that scream, help, even while his thoughts say otherwise. We have to go, the voice yells again. I don't turn to face it, but I know whose it is. Mark James, no longer hiding in the school, trying to save me from this clash. His being here must mean that Sarah's okay, and for a brief moment I allow myself to be relieved, but then that relief vanishes as quickly as it came. In this exact moment, only one thing matters. Bernie Kosar on his side, looking at me with glassy eyes. He saved me. It's my turn to save him. Mark reaches his hand across my chest, begins pulling me backwards, out of the clearing, away from the fight. I twist myself free. Bernie Kosar's eyes slowly begin to close. He's fading, I think. I won't watch you die, I tell him. I'm willing to watch many things in this world, but I'll be damned if I'll watch you die. There's no response. The beast's bite hardens. It can sense that death is near. I take one wobbly step and pull the dagger from the waistband of my jeans. I close my fingers tightly around it, and it comes alive and starts glowing. I'll never be able to hit the beast by throwing the dagger, and my legacies have all but vanished. An easy decision. No choice but to charge. One deep, shaky breath. I rock my body backwards and everything tensing through the ache of exhaustion. Not an inch anywhere on me that doesn't feel some sort of pain. No! Mark yells behind me. I lunge forward and sprint for the beast. The beast's eyes are closed, jaws clamped tightly around Bernie Kosar's throat so that the moonlight glows in the pools of blood around it. 30 feet away, then 20. The beast's eyes snap open at the exact moment I jump. Yellow eyes that twist in rage the second they focus upon me, sailing through the air towards them, dagger in both hands, held high over my head as though in some heroic dream I never want to wake from. The beast lets go of Bernie Kosar's throat and moves to bite, but surely it knows that it has sensed me too late. The blade of the dagger glows in anticipation, and I jam it deeply into the eye of the beast. A liquid ooze immediately bursts out. The beast lets out a blood-curdling scream so loud that it's hard to imagine the dead being able to sleep through it. I fall flat on my back. I lift my head and watch the beast totter over me. It tries in vain to pull the dagger from its eye, but its hands are too big and the dagger is too small. The Mogadorian weapons function in some way that I don't think I'll ever understand because of the mystical gateways between the realms. The dagger is no different, the black of the night rushing into the eye of the beast in a vortex-like funnel cloud, a tornado of death. The beast falls silent as the last of the great black cloud enters its skull and the dagger is sucked in with it. The beast's arms fall limply into its sides. Its hands begin to shake, a violent shake that reverberates throughout the entirety of its massive body. When the convulsions end, the beast hunches over and then falls to the ground with its back against the trees, sitting but yet still towering some 25 feet over me. Everything silent, hanging in anticipation of what is to come. A gun fires once, very close, so that my ears ring for seconds afterward. The beast takes a great breath and holds it in as though in meditation, and suddenly its head explodes, raining down pieces of brain and flesh and skull over everything, all of which quickly turn to ash and dust. The woods fall silent. I turn my head and look at Bernie Kosar, who still lies motionless on his side, his eyes closed. I can't tell if he's alive or not. As I look at him, he begins to change again, shrinking down to his normal size while remaining lifeless. I hear the sound of crunching leaves and snapping twigs nearby. It takes all the strength I have just to lift my head an inch off the ground. I open my eyes and peer up into the haze of night, expecting to see Mark James, but it's not him standing over me. My breath catches in my throat, a looming figure, indistinct, with the moon's light hovering just over it. Then he takes one step forward, blotting out the moon, and my eyes widen in anticipation and dread. Okay, so that was a short chapter after our very long chapter in the last video. So we're only at 8 minutes and 30 seconds, so we're going to continue on with chapter 33. The hazy image sharpens. Through the exhaustion and pain and fear, a smile comes to my face, coupled with a sense of relief. Henry. He throws the shotgun into the bushes and drops to one knee beside me. His face is bloodied, his shirt and jeans in tatters, cuts down the length of both arms and on his neck, and beyond that I see that his eyes are fear-stricken from what he sees in mine. Is it over? I ask. Shh, he says. Tell me. Have you been stabbed by one of their daggers? My back, I say. He closes his eyes and shakes his head. He reaches into his pocket and removes one of the small round stones I watched him grab from the Lorik chest before we left the home ec room. His hands are shaking. Open your mouth, he says. He inserts one of the stones. Keep it under your tongue. Don't swallow it. He hefts me up with his hands beneath my armpits. I get to my feet and he keeps an arm on me while I regain balance. He turns me around to look at the gash on my back. My face feels warm. A sort of rejuvenation blooms through me from the stone. My limbs still ache with exhaustion, but enough strength has returned so that I'm able to function. What is this? Lauric salt. It'll slow and numb the dagger's effects, he says. You'll feel a burst of energy, but it won't last long, and we have to get back to the school as quickly as we can. The pebble is cold in my mouth, tastes nothing like salt. Tastes like nothing at all, actually. I look down and take inventory, and then brush off with my hands the ashen residue left from the fallen beast. Is everyone okay? I ask. Six has been badly hurt, he says. Sam is carrying her back to the truck as we speak. Then he's going to drive to the school to pick us up. That's why we have to get back there. Have you seen Sarah? No. Mark James was just here, I say, and look at him. I thought you were him. I didn't see him. I look past Henry at the dog. Bernie Kosar, I say. He's still shrinking, the scales fading away, tan, black, and brown hair taking their place, returning to the form in which I have known him most recently. Floppy ears, short legs, long body. A beagle with a cold, wet nose, always ready to run. He just saved my life. You knew, didn't you? Of course I knew. Why didn't you tell me? Because he watched over you when I couldn't. But how is he here? He was on the ship with us. And then I remember what I thought was a stuffed animal that used to play with me. It was really Bernie Kosar I was playing with, though back then his name was Hadley. We walked to the dog together. I crouched down and run my hand along Bernie Kosar's side. We have to hurry, Henry says again. Bernie Kosar isn't moving. The woods are alive, swarming with shadows that can only mean one thing, but I don't care. I move my head to the dog's rib cage. Ever so faintly I hear the thump of his beating heart. Some glimmer of life is still left. He's covered in deep cuts and gashes, and blood seems to seep from everywhere. His front leg is twisted at an unnatural angle, broken, but he's still alive. I lift him as gently as I can, cradling him like a child in my arms. Henry helps me up, then reaches into his pocket, grabs another salt pebble, and plops it into his own mouth. It makes me wonder if he was talking about himself when he said there was little time. Both of us are unsteady. And then something catches my eye in Henry's thigh. A wound glowing navy blue through the gathering blood around it. He's also been stabbed by a soldier's knife. I wonder if the salt pebble is the only reason he's now standing, as it is for me. What about the shotgun? I ask. I'm out of ammo. We walk out of the clearing, taking our time. Bernie Kosar doesn't move in my arms, but I can feel that life hasn't left him. Not yet. We exit the woods, leaving behind us the overhanging branches and bushes and the smell of wet and rotting leaves. Do you think you can run? Henry asks. No, I say, but I'll run anyway. Up ahead of us we hear a great commotion, several grunts followed by clanking of chains. And then we hear a roar, not quite as sinister as the others, but loud enough so that we know it can only mean one thing. Another beast. You're kidding me, Henry says. Twigs snap behind us, coming from the woods. Henry and I both twist around, but the woods are too dense to see. I snap the light on in my left hand and sweep it through the trees to see. There must be 7 or 8 soldiers standing at the entrance of the woods, and when my light hits them, they all draw their swords, which come alive, glowing their various colors the second they do. No, Henry yells. Don't use your legacies, it'll weaken you. But it's too late. I snap the light off, vertigo and weakness return, then the pain. I hold my breath and wait for the soldiers to come charging at us, but they don't. There follows no sound aside from the obvious struggle happening straight ahead of us. Then an uproar of yells behind us. I turn to look. The glowing swords begin swaggering forward from 40 feet away. A confident laugh comes from one of the soldiers, 9 of them armed and full of strength versus 3 of us broken and battered and armed with nothing more than our valor. The beast one way, the soldiers the other. That is the choice that we now face. Henry seems unfazed. He removes 2 more pebbles from his pocket and hands one to me. The last 2, he says, his voice shaky as though it requires a great effort just to speak. I plop the new pebble into my mouth and bury it beneath my tongue despite a small bit of the first still remaining. Renewed strength rushes through me. What do you think? He asks me. We are surrounded. Henry and Bernie Kosar and I are the only 3 left, 6 badly hurt and carried away by Sam, Mark just here but now nowhere to be found, and that leaves Sarah, who I pray is tucked away safely in the school that lies 1/10 of a mile ahead of us. I take a deep breath and I accept the inevitable. I don't think it matters, Henry, I say, and look at him. But the school is ahead of us, and that is where Sam will be shortly. What he does next catches me off guard. He smiles. He reaches his hand out and gives my shoulder a squeeze. His eyes are tired and red, but in them I see relief, a sense of serenity as though he knows it's all about to end. We've done all we could, and what's done is done, but I'm damn proud of you, he says. You did amazing today. I always knew you would. There was never a doubt in my mind. I drop my head. I don't want him to see me cry. I squeeze the dog. For the first time since I grabbed him, he shows a slight sign of life, lifting his head just enough so that he can lick the side of my face. He passes one word to me and one word only, as if that is all his strength will allow. Courage, he says. I lift my head. Henry steps forward and hugs me. I close my eyes and bury my face in his neck. He's still shaking, his body frail and weak beneath my grip. I'm sure mine is no stronger. So this is it, I think. With our heads held high, we will walk across the field to whatever awaits there. At least there is dignity in that. You did damn good, he says. I open my eyes. From over his shoulder, I see the soldiers are near, 20 feet away now. They have stopped walking. One of them is holding a dagger that pulsates silver and gray. The soldier tosses it in the air, catches it, and hurls it at Henry's back. I lift my hand and deflect it away, and it misses by a foot. My strength leaves me almost immediately, even though the pebble is only half dissolved. Henry takes my free arm and drapes it over his shoulders, and places his right arm around my waist. We stagger forward. The beast comes into view, looming just ahead in the center of the football field. The Mogadorians follow behind us. Perhaps they are curious to see the beast in action, to see the beast kill. Each step I take becomes more of an effort than the one that preceded it. My heart thuds in my chest. Death is forthcoming, and of that I am terrified. But Henry's here, and so is Bernie Kosar. I'm happy not to have to face it alone. Several soldiers stand on the other side of the beast. Even if we could get past the beast, we would then have to walk straight into the soldiers, who stand with drawn swords. We have no choice. We reach the field, and I expect the beast to pounce at any moment, but nothing happens. When we are within 15 feet of it, we stop. We stand, leaning against each other for support. The beast is half the size of the other, but still big enough to kill us all with no great effort of its own. Pale, almost translucent skin stretched over protruding ribs and knobby joints. Various pinkish scars down its arms and sides. White, sightless eyes. It shifts its weight and lowers itself, then swings its head low over the grass to smell what its eyes fail to see. It can sense us in front of it. It lets out a low groan. I feel none of the rage and malice from the other beasts radiated. No desire for blood and death. There's a sense of fear, a sense of sadness. I open myself to it. I see images of torture and starvation. I see the beast locked up for all its life here on earth. A damp cave where little light reaches, shivering through the night to stay warm, always cold and wet. I see the way the Mogadorians pit the beasts against one another, force them to fight in order to train, to toughen them, and make them mean. Henry lets go of me. I can't hold Bernie Kosar any longer. I gently place him in the grass at my feet. I haven't felt him move in minutes, and I can't tell if he's still alive. I take one step forward and drop to my knees. The soldiers yell around us. I don't understand their language, but I can tell by their tones that they are impatient. One swings his sword, and a dagger just misses me. A flash of white that flutters and tears the front of my shirt. I stay on my knees and look up at the beast hovering over me. Some weapon is fired, but it sails over our heads. A warning shot meant to move the beast to action. The beast quivers. A second dagger darts through the air and hits the beast below the elbow of its left arm. It lifts its head and roars in pain. I'm sorry, I try to tell it. I'm sorry for the life you've been forced to live. You've been wronged. No living creature deserves such treatment. You've been forced to endure hell. Plucked from your own planet to fight a war that isn't yours. Beaten and tortured and starved. The blame for all the pain and agony you've experienced lies with them. You and I share a common bond, both wronged by these monsters. I try with everything to pass along my own images, the things that I've seen and felt. The beast doesn't look away. My thoughts, on some level, are reaching it. I show it Lorien, the vast ocean and thick forests and verdant hills, teeming with life and vitality. Animals drinking from the cold blue waters. A proud people content to pass the days in harmony. I show it the hell that followed the slaying of men, women, and children, the Mogadorians, cold-blooded murderers. Draconian killers destroying all that lies within their path due to their own recklessness and pathetic beliefs. destroying even their own planet. Where does it end? I show it Sarah. Show it every emotion that I've ever felt with her, happiness and bliss. This is how I feel with her, and this is the pain I feel in having to leave her, all because of them. Help me, I say. Help me in this death and slaughter. Let us fight together. I have so little left, but if you stand with me, I'll stand with you. The beast lifts its head to the sky and it roars, a roar both long and deep. The Mogadorians can sense what is happening and have seen enough. Their weapons begin firing. I look over, and one of the cannons is aimed right at me. It fires, and the white death surges forth, but the beast drops its head in time and absorbs the shot instead. Its face twists in pain, its eyes squeeze tightly shut, but almost immediately they snap back open. This time, I see the rage. I fall face first in the grass. I'm grazed by something, but I don't see what it is. Henry cries out in pain behind me, and he is flung 30 feet away, his body lying in the mud, face up, smoking. I have no idea what has hit him. Something big and deadly. Panic and fear hit me. Not Henry, I think. Please not Henry. The beast throws a hard, sweeping blow that takes out several of the soldiers and quiets many of their guns. Another roar. I look up and see the beast's eyes have turned red, ablaze with fury, retribution, mutiny. It looks my way once and swiftly rushes off to follow its captors. Guns blaze, but many of them are quick to be silenced. Kill them all, I think. Fight nobly and honorably, and may you kill them all. I lift my head. Bernie Kosar is motionless in the grass. Henry, 30 feet away, is motionless as well. I place a hand in the grass and pull myself forward, across the field, inch by inch, dragging myself to Henry. When I get there, his eyes are open slightly. Each breath is a fight. Trails of blood run from his mouth and nose. I take him into my arms and I pull him into my lap. His body is frail and weak, and I can feel him dying. His eyes flutter open. He looks at me and lifts his hand and presses it to the side of my face. The second he does, I begin to cry. I'm here, I say. He tries to smile. I'm so sorry, Henry, I say. I'm so sorry. We should have left when you wanted to. Shh, he says. It's not your fault. I'm so sorry, I say between sobs. You did great, he says in a whisper. You did so great. I always knew you would. We have to get you to the school, I say. Sam could be there. Listen to me, John. Everything, he says. Everything you need to know. It's all in the chest. The letter. It's not over. We can still make it. I can feel him begin to go. I shake him. His eyes reluctantly reopen. A trail of blood runs from his mouth. Coming here. To paradise. It wasn't by chance. Oh, he said that. My bad. Coming here to paradise. It wasn't by chance. I don't know what he means. Read the letter. Henry, I say, and reach down and wipe the blood off his chin. He looks me in the eye. You are Lorien's legacy, John. You and the others, the only hope the planet has left. The secrets, he says, and is gripped by a fit of coughs. More blood. His eyes close again. The chest, John. I pull him more tightly to me, squeezing him. His body's going slack. Breaths so shallow that they are hardly breaths at all. We'll make it back together, Henry, me and you. I promise, I say, and close my eyes. Be strong, he says, and is overtaken by slight coughs, though he tries to speak through them. This war can win. Find the others. 6. The power of, he says, and trails off. I try to stand with him in my arms, but I have nothing left, hardly enough strength to even breathe. Off in the distance I hear the beast roar. Cannons are still being fired, the sounds and lights of which reach over the stadium bleachers, but as each minute passes, less and less of them are being fired until there is only one. I lower Henry in my arms. I place my hand to the side of his face, and he opens his eyes and looks at me for what I know will be the final time. He takes a weak breath and exhales, and then slowly closes his eyes. I wouldn't have missed it. A second of it, kiddo. Not for all of Lorien. Not for the whole damn world, he says. And when the last word leaves his mouth, I know that he's gone. I squeeze him in my arms, shaking, crying, despair and hopelessness taking hold. His hand drops lifelessly to the grass. I cup his head in my hand and hold it close to my chest, and I rock him back and forth, and I cry like I've never cried before. The pendant around my neck glows blue, grows heavy for just a split second, and then dims to normal. I sit in the grass and I hold Henry while the last cannon falls silent. The pain leaves my own body, and with the cold of the night I feel my own self begin to fade. The moon and the stars shine overhead. I hear a cackle of laughter carried on the wind. My ears attuned to it. I turn my head. Through the dizziness and blurry vision, I see a scout 15 feet away from me. Long trench coat, hat pulled to its eyes. It drops the coat and takes off the hat to reveal a pale and hairless head. It reaches to the back of its belt and removes a bowie knife, the blade of which is no less than 12 inches long. I close my eyes. I don't care anymore. The scout's raspy, bright breathing comes to my way 10 feet, then 5, and then the footsteps end. The scout grunts in pain and begins gurgling. I open my eyes. The scout's so close that I can smell it. The bowie knife falls from its hand, and there, in its chest, where I assume its heart must be, is the end of a butcher's knife. The knife is pulled free. The scout drops to its knees, falls to its side, and explodes in a puff of ash. Behind it, holding the knife in her shaky right hand, with tears in her eyes, stands Sarah. She drops the knife and rushes over to me, wrapping her arms around me with my arms around Henry. I hold Henry as my own head falls and the world dims away into nothingness. The aftermath of war. The school destroyed, the trees fallen, and heaps of ash piled in the grass of the football field. And I still hold Henry, and Sarah holds me. Okay, that was the end of chapter 33. Oh, it's really sad. Henry died. I hate it. It's so sad. So, chapter 34, we're at 26 minutes. So, only 4 minutes left for the video. Let's see, I think this is the last chapter, I want to say. It is. Should I make you guys wait, or should I finish it? It'll be a pretty long video if I finish it. I think I'll go ahead and finish it. I won't make you wait. Chapter 34. Images flicker, each one bringing its own sorrow or its own smile, sometimes both. At the very worst, an impenetrable and slightless black, and at best a happiness so bright that it hurts the eyes to see, coming and going on some unseen projector perpetually turned on by an invisible hand. One, then another. The hollow click of the shutter. Now stop. Freeze this frame. Pluck it down and hold it close and be damned by what you see. Henry always said the price of a memory is the memory of the sorrow it brings. A warm summer day in the cool grass with the sun high in the cloudless sky, the air coming off the water carrying the freshness of the sea. A man walks up to the house, briefcase in hand, a younger man. Brown hair cut short, freshly shaven, dressed casually. A sense of nervousness by the way he switches his briefcase from one hand to the other, and the thin layer of sweat glistening on his forehead. He knocks at the door. My grandfather answers, opens the door for the man to enter, then closes it behind him. I resume my romping in the yard, Hadley changing forms, flying, then dodging, then charging, wrestling with one another and laughing until it hurts. The day passing as time only can under the reckless abandon of childhood's invincibility and of its innocence. 15 minutes pass, maybe less. At that age, a day can last forever. The door opens and closes. I look up. My grandfather is standing with the man I had seen approach, both of them looking down at me. "There is somebody I would like you to meet," he says. I stand from the grass and clap my hands together to knock away the dirt. "This is Brandon," my grandfather says. "He's your C-Pan. Do you know what that means?" I shake my head. Brandon. That was his name. All these years, and only now does it come back to me. "It means he's going to be spending a lot of time with you from here on out. The two of you. It means you are connected. You are bound to one another. Do you understand?" I nod and walk to the man, and I offer him my hand, as I have seen done many times by grown men before. The man smiles and drops to one knee. He takes my small hand in his right, and he closes his fingers around it. "Pleased to meet you, sir," I say. Bright, kind eyes full of life look into mine as though offering a promise, a bond, yet I'm too young to know what that promise or bond really means. He nods and brings his left hand on top of his right, my tiny hand lost somewhere in the middle. He nods at me, still smiling. "My dear child," he says, "the pleasure is all mine." I'm jolted awake. I lie on my back, my heart racing, breathing heavily as though I had been running. My eyes stay closed, but I can tell the sun has just risen by the long shadows and the crispness of the air in the room. Pain returns, my limbs still heavy. With the pain comes another pain, a pain far greater than any physical ailment I could ever be afflicted with, the memory of the hours before. I take a deep breath and exhale. A single tear rolls down the side of my face. I keep my eyes closed. An irrational hope that if I don't find the day, when the day won't find me, that if I don't find the day, then the day won't find me, that the things in the night will be nullified. My body shudders, a silent cry turning into a hard one. I shake my head and let it in. I know that Henry is dead and that all the hope in the world won't change it. I feel movement beside me. I tense myself, try to remain motionless so as not to be detected. A hand reaches up and touches the side of my face, a delicate touch done with love. My eyes come open, adjusting to the past dawn light, until the ceiling of a foreign room comes into focus. I have no idea where I am, nor how I could have gotten here. Sarah's sitting next to me. She brings her hand to the side of my face and traces my brow with her thumb. She leans down and kisses me, a soft, lingering kiss that I wish I could bottle and save for all time. She pulls away and I take a deep breath and close my eyes and kiss her on the forehead. "Where are we?" I ask. "A hotel, 30 miles from Paradise." "How did I get here?" "Sam drove us," she says. "I mean, from the school. What happened? I remember that you were with me last night, but I don't remember a thing after," I say. "It almost seems like a dream." "I waited on the field with you until Mark arrived, and he carried you to Sam's truck. I couldn't stay hidden any longer. Being in the school without knowing what was happening out there was killing me, and I felt like I could help somehow." "You certainly helped," I say. "You saved my life." "I killed an alien," she says, as though the fact still hasn't settled in. She wraps her arms around me, her hand resting on the back of my head. I try to sit up. I make it halfway on my own, and then Sarah helps me the rest of the way, pushing on my back but being careful not to touch the wound left by the knife. I swing my feet over the edge of the bed and reach down and feel the scars around my ankle, counting them with the tips of my fingers, still only 3. And in this way, I know that 6 has survived. I had already accepted the fate of the rest of my days being spent alone, an inerrant wanderer with no place to go, but I won't be alone. 6 is still here, still with me, my tie to a past world. "Is 6 okay?" "Yes," she says. "She's been stabbed and shot, but she seems to be doing okay now. I don't think she would have survived had Sam not carried her to the truck." "Where is she?" "In the room next door, with Sam and Mark." I stand. My muscles and joints ache in protest. Everything's stiff and sore. I'm wearing a clean t-shirt, a pair of mesh shorts. My skin is fresh with the smell of soap. The cuts have been cleaned and bandaged, a few of them stitched. "Did you do all this?" I ask. "Most of it. The stitches were hard. We only had the ones Henry put in your head to go on as an example. Sam helped with them." I look at Sarah sitting on the bed, her legs pulled underneath her. Something else catches my eye. A small mass that has shifted beneath the blanket at the foot of the bed. I tense, and immediately my mind returns to the weasels that sped across the gym. Sarah sees what I am looking at and smiles. She crawls to the bottom of the bed on her hands and knees. "There's somebody here who wants to say hello," she says, then takes the corner of the blanket and gently peels it back to reveal Bernie Kosar sleeping away. A metal splint goes the length of his front leg, and his body's covered with cuts and gashes that, like mine, have been cleaned and are already beginning to heal. His eyes slowly open and adjust, his eyes rimmed with red, full of exhaustion. He keeps his head on the bed, but his tail gives a subtle wag, softly thumping against the mattress. "Bernie," I say, and drop to my knees before him. I place my hand softly on his head. I can't stop smiling, and tears of joy surface. His small body's curled into a ball, head resting on his front paws, his eyes taking me in. Battle-scarred and wounded, but still here to tell the tale. "Bernie Kosar, you made it through. I owe you my life," I say, and kiss the top of his head. Sarah runs her hand down the length of his back. "I carried him to the truck while Mark carried you." "Mark, I'm sorry I ever doubted him," I say. She lifts one of Bernie Kosar's ears. He turns and sniffs at her hand and then licks it. "So, is it true what Mark said, that Bernie Kosar grew to 30 feet tall and killed a beast almost double his size?" I smile. "A beast triple his size." Bernie Kosar looks at me. "Liar," he says. I look down and wink at him. I stand back up and look at Sarah. "All of this," I say, "all of this has happened so fast. How are you handling it?" She nods. "Handling what? The fact that I've fallen in love with an alien, which I only found out about 3 days ago, and then just happened to walk headlong into the middle of a war? Yeah, I'm handling that okay." I smile at her. "You're an angel." "Nah," she says. "I'm just a girl crazy in love." She gets up from the bed and wraps her arms around me, and we stand in the center of the room holding one another. You really have to leave, don't you? I nod. She takes a deep breath and exhales shakily, willing herself not to cry. More tears in the past 24 hours than I have ever witnessed in all the years of my life. I don't know where you have to go or what you have to do, but I'll wait for you, John. Every bit of my heart belongs to you, whether you ask for it or not. I pull her to me. And mine belongs to you, I say. I walk across the room. Sitting on top of the desk are the Lorick chest, 3 packed bags, Henry's computer, and all the money from the last withdrawal he made at the bank. Sarah must have rescued the chest from the home ec room. I place my hand on it. All the secrets Henry had said, all of them contained within this. In time I'll open it and discover them, but that time is certainly not now. And what did he mean about paradise, that our coming wasn't by chance? Did you pack my bags? I asked Sarah, who was standing behind me. Yes, and it was probably the hardest thing I ever had to do. I lift my bag from the table. Beneath it is a manila envelope carrying my name across the front of it. What's this? I ask. I don't know. I found it in Henry's bedroom. We went there after leaving the school and tried to grab everything we could. Then we came here. I open the envelope and pull out the contents. All of the documents Henry had created for me. Birth certificates, social security cards, visas, and so on. I count through them. 17 different identities, 17 different ages. On the very front sheet is a sticky note in Henry's writing. It reads, just in case. After the last sheet is another sealed envelope, across which Henry has written my name. A letter, the one he must have been talking about just before he died. I don't have the heart to read it now. I look out the window of the hotel room. A light snow sifts down from the low, gray clouds overhead. The ground is too warm for any of it to stick. Sarah's car and Sam's father's blue truck are parked outside beside each other in the lot. As I stand looking down at them, a knock sounds at the door. Sarah opens it, and Sam and Mark walk into the room. Six limps behind them. Sam hugs me, says he's sorry. Thank you, I say. How do you feel? Six asks. She's no longer wearing the suit, but is now dressed in the pair of jeans she wore when I first saw her, and one of Henry's sweatshirts. I shrug. I'm okay. Sore and stiff. My body feels heavy. The heaviness is from the dagger. It'll eventually wear off, though. How badly were you stabbed? I ask. She lifts her shirt and shows me the gash in her side, then a different one on her back. All told, she was stabbed 3 times last night, and that's not to mention the various cuts along the rest of her body, or the shot that left a deep gash in her right thigh, now wrapped tightly with gauze and tape, the reason for her limp. She tells me that by the time we made it back, it was too late to be healed by the stone. It amazes me that she's even alive. Mark and Sam are wearing the same clothes as the day before, both filthy and covered in mud and dirt with smatterings of blood mixed in. Both with heavy eyes as though they've yet to sleep. Mark stands behind Sam, shifting his weight uncomfortably. Sam, I always knew you were a wrecking machine, I say. He laughs uncertainly. Are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine, I say. How about you? Doing okay. I look over his shoulder at Mark. Sarah told me you carried me off the field last night. Mark shrugs. I was happy to help. You saved my life, Mark. He looks me in the eye. I think every one of us saved somebody at some point last night. Hell, 6 saved me on 3 separate occasions, and you saved my 2 dogs on Saturday. I say we're even. I somehow manage to smile. Fair enough, I say. I'm just happy to find out you're not the dick I thought you were. He half grins. Let's just say that had I known you were an alien and could kick my ass at will, I might have been a little nicer to you that first day. Six walks across the room and looks at my bags atop the table. We really should get going, she says, and then looks at me with implicit concern, her face softening. There's really only one thing left undone. We weren't sure what you wanted us to do. I nod. I don't need to ask to know what she's talking about. I look at Sarah. It's going to happen much sooner than I thought. My stomach turns. I feel as though I could vomit. Sarah reaches out and takes hold of my hand. Where is he? The ground is damp with the melting snow. I hold Sarah's hand in mine, and we pass through the woods in silence. A mile away from the hotel, Sam and Mark walk in the lead, following the muddy footprints they created a few hours before. Up ahead, I see a slight clearing, in the center of which Henry's body has been laid out on a slab of wood. He's wrapped in the gray blanket pulled from his bed. I walk to him. Sarah follows and places a hand on my shoulder. The others stand behind me. I pull the blanket down to see him. His eyes are closed. His face is ashen gray, and his lips are blue from the cold. I kiss his forehead. "What do you want to do, John?" Six asks. "We can bury him if you want. We can also cremate him." "How can we cremate him?" "I can create a fire." "I thought you could only control the weather." "Not the weather. The elements." I look up at her soft face, concern written upon it, but also the stress of time at our having to leave before reinforcements arrive. I don't answer. I look away and squeeze Henry for a final time with my face close to his, and I lose myself to grief. "I'm so sorry, Henry." I whisper in his ear. I close my eyes. "I love you. I wouldn't have missed a second of it either. Not for anything." I whisper. "I'm going to take you back yet. Somehow I'm going to get you back to Lorien. We always joked about it, but you were my father, the best father I could have ever asked for. I'll never forget you, not for a minute, for as long as I live. I love you, Henry. I always did." Woo! Sorry, I'm tearing up, guys. Just a little. Woo! Let me just take a quick break. Can't have me crying on the recording. Alright. Woo! Let's continue on. I let go of him, pull the blanket back over his face, and lay him gently on the wooden slab. I stand and hug Sarah. She holds me until I stop crying. I wipe the tears away with the back of my hand, and I nod at Six. Sam helps me clear away the sticks and leaves, and then we lay Henry's body on the ground so as not to dilute his ash with anything else. Sam lights an edge of the blanket, and Six makes the fire rage from there. We watch it burn. Not a dry eye among us. Even Mark cries. Nobody says a word. When the flames end, I gather the ashes in a coffee can that Mark was astute enough to bring from the hotel. I'll get something better the second we stop. When we walk back, I put the can on the dashboard of Sam's dad's truck. I feel comforted to know that Henry will still travel with us, that he'll look out over the roads while we leave another town, as the two of us have done so many times before. We load our belongings into the back of the truck, along with Six's things and mine. Sam has also loaded in 2 bags of his own. At first, I'm confused, but then I realize that between him and Six, some agreement has been made that Sam will come with us, and I'm happy for that. Sarah and I walk back into the hotel room. The second the door closes, she takes my hand and turns me towards her. "My heart is breaking," she says. "I want to be strong for you right now, but the thought of leaving is killing me inside." I kiss her on the head. "My heart is broken already," I say, "the second I get settled all right, and I'll do my best to call when I know it's safe." Six pokes her head in the doorway. "We really have to go," she says. I nod. She closes the door. Sarah lifts her face to mine, and we kiss standing there in the hotel room. The thought of the Mogadorians returning before we've left, and thus putting her in danger yet again, is the only source of strength I can find. Else I might collapse. Else I might stay forever. Bernie Kosar still lies waiting at the foot of the bed. He wags his tail when I carefully take him into my arms and carry him outside to the truck. Six starts the truck and lets it idle. I turn and look up at the hotel and am saddened that it's not the house, and that I know I'll never see it again. Its peeling wooden clapboards, broken windows, black shingles, warped from excessive sun exposure and rain. It looks like paradise, I once told Henry, but that will no longer hold true. Paradise lost. I turn and nod to Six. She climbs into the truck, closes the door, and waits. Sam and Mark shake hands, but I don't hear what they say to each other. Sam climbs into the truck and waits with Six. I shake Mark's hand. "I owe you more than I'll ever be able to repay," I say to Mark. "You don't owe me a thing," Mark says. "Not true," I say. "Someday." I look away. I can feel myself wanting to collapse under the sadness of leaving. My resolve is being held by a tattered string ready to snap. I nod. "I'll see you again someday. Be safe out there." I take Sarah into my arms and squeeze her tightly, never wanting to let go. "I'll come back to you," I say. "I promise you. If it's the last thing I do, I'll come back to you." Her face is buried in my neck. She nods. "I'll count the minutes until you do," she says. One last kiss. I set her on the ground and I open the door to the truck. My eyes never leave hers. She covers her mouth and her nose with her hands pressed together, neither one of us able to look away. I close the door. Six puts the truck in reverse and pulls out of the parking lot. comes to a stop, puts it in gear. Mark and Sarah walk to the end of the lot to watch us on our way, tears streaming down both sides of Sarah's face. I turn in my seat and watch from the rear window. I lift my hand to wave, and Mark waves back, but Sarah just watches. I watch her for as long as I can, growing smaller, one indistinct blur fading in the distance. The truck slows and turns, and both of them vanish from sight. I turn back around, and I watch the fields pass, and I close my eyes, and I picture Sarah's face, and I smile. We'll be together yet, I tell her, and until that day you'll be in my heart and my every thought. Bernie Kosar lifts his head and rests it in my lap, and I place my hand upon his back. The truck bounces down the road, driving south, the four of us, together, heading for the next town, wherever that might be. Okay, so that was a little over 45 minutes, and that is the end of the book. Tell me what you think in the comments. Don't forget to start, liking these videos. If you want to go back and like all the other ones, that'd be great. If you know anybody who would like these books, make sure you tell your friends about them, family, so that they can start listening to my channel, maybe even subscribe. And let me know again in the comments what you'd like me to read next. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little bit of research and get a list of all the books and figure out which order they kind of go. And then you guys can tell me if you want me to read them in order from when they came out, novellas included, or if you just want me to read the main story and then the novellas. Let me know. I do know that if I were to read the novella in between, it's usually based on a character you meet. So like in this case, you just met Six. So it's going to be about Six's life and what happened to her CPAN and her upbringing. They're not that long. But just let me know. And then I guess if you want me to read those, then what you'll have to do is just kind of try to remember this one in your mind. So that way when we move on to the next book. Now, in a few videos prior to this, I don't know exactly which one, I did say that going forward from here, the points of views change. Like, so one second I'll be reading from John or Four's perspective, then another time I could be reading from Six's perspective, and then maybe another character that you may meet. So don't let that throw you off. Don't let it get you, because it all comes into play and all makes sense. So I hope you're loving it. Let me know, like I said, and that's all for now. Reading by Ree. Until next time. Bye.